Hi guys, it's Steve. Sorry I couldn't be there today, but I did want to still share my leadership development plan, both for myself as a leader as well as the organizational needs that we have, and I wanted to make sure I address those. So obviously you have a starting point, and when you don't have your internal roadmap set up, where are you going to go without having any forethought, without assessing anything first? How are you going to have any forethought of where that starting point is going to lead you? It's kind of like now trying to navigate with a broken iPhone. We don't have our working GPS. Then we don't know where we're going without using our phone to tell us where, and having that screen. How are we going to know where we're going? So the same thing holds true for not examining the internal levels of ourselves or our organizations and taking that internal look. So we definitely need to do that to have that clear starting point and that clear path ahead, so we know where we are going. So to do that, I definitely took some of the assessments that we were offered to take, and I ended up taking about 10. Took four of them from the Mind Tools website, in communication skills, creativity, decision making, and time management were the ones I took through Mind Tools. And then, of course, I took some of the Keen self assessments that we had, including the leadership inventory, influencing, managing conflict, trust building, the intuitive decision maker quotient, and assertiveness. I definitely like taking the assessments. It was an interesting activity for me. I enjoyed having the opportunity to take a look at myself and realize what are strengths, what are weaknesses, seeing what may be different from what I initially thought, and that certainly happened too. And then seeing what trends occurred as well, and we'll definitely get into that through this presentation. So some ideas of my personal strengths and weaknesses, and what I'll do is lay out my personal strengths and weaknesses, take you through just a couple of the strengths, both for myself, and then weaknesses will identify the action plans for the six areas that I'd like to address, and then kind of do the same for the organization. Look at the strengths, and then address the weaknesses through the action plan, or a few of the weaknesses. So some of my strengths are encoding and decoding, time management and prioritization, leading by example, being innovative, finding problems, trust building and implementing. And you can see some of the weaknesses there, including assertiveness, planning messages, scheduling, interaction, intuitive decision making, conflict resolution, checking decisions, and generating ideas, and empathy. So you can see them there. But like I said, we'll go a little more in depth with some of these. For my personal strengths, encoding and decoding, we certainly have that coming more and more that coding and but about this is really communication skills. They're two different ones, but similar. It's deciphering the messages, but encoding is your outgoing and decoding is the incoming. So my encoding, when I send out messages to my staff, to an individual, to a colleague, to the president, to a faculty member, or to any of the external constituents, respective students and their families, um, am I making sure that the message I'd like to get across is getting across and getting it across in the best way possible? I think I do that. And same thing with decoding, which is taking in the messaging, whether that's from any of those constituencies, can and bringing and figuring out the true meaning and the true message. So I think I do a good job of encoding and decoding. Um, so that's definitely a strength of mine. I think I'm strong with time management and prioritization. I'm able to determine what is a priority, and how much time to use. For that, knowing what time I have available, making sure that's spent on the things that'll make an impact. Those are definite keys for me, and things I want to take advantage of. Personal leadership and leading by example is something I'm also strong with. I think I have a strong sense of personal leadership. I'm able to make those type of decisions for myself and have that internal base that, like in Scholar's book, leads outward to the private and public levels of leadership. And leading by example as well. An example of that is we ask. I'm able to roll up my sleeves. I don't ask people to do things that I wouldn't do. An example I had was just last week was working with our residence life staff. We ask a lot of times for people to help us after hours, weekends, nights, to either coming to events, doing call campaigns, coming to open houses. So when I get asked, I really like to say yes as much as I can, because that just shows people the commitment that I have to the institution. I think that their areas are important just as they hope that our recruitment functions are important as well. So I helped the RAs last Friday night. So on the one week off week we don't have class, I was here late still on a Friday night. I was here till about 9:30, helping with the RA selection for next year. because I do want to give back what we ask of others and try to lead by example in a number of different ways and be a role model to my staff as well in other leadership avenues. I do enjoy finding problems. Not that I enjoy finding problems or having problems, but identifying what can be a problem and then implementing solutions, implementing new ideas. I do enjoy. That's something that really invigorates me. Is when we're able to have a new idea and put it into place and seeing the impact. Whether that's we're undergoing an actual implementation of a whole new software for recruitment, and that requires overhauling everything that we do, the way we do it, and taking a step back and asking the whys. Why do we do it? And that's something I really do enjoy, and really found through the assessments too that was a strength of mine. When we look at Caldwell as an organization, I think we have certain strengths and weaknesses. Some of our strengths are trust building. We have a great community here at Caldwell. Prioritization, organizational leadership, and innovation. Weaknesses, time management, intuitive decision making, and innovation. We'll get into those a little bit later, but as far as strengths, prioritization, we've undergone a lot of huge changes here, and that's been communicated here as a campus of what's been a priority and what's not a priority. You can see some of them here from our nursing program becoming a university, being reaccredited, our new sprint football team, which we're excited about. And if you don't know what sprint football is, it's regular football, regular size roster, regular positions and rules. The only difference from regular NCAA football is that all of the students participating need to be under 172 pounds. So if any of you in the class still have some eligibility left and want to play before you finish your dissertation, come see me and I'll be able to help you out. But these are all priorities that help the organization as a whole. We've been able to get on board together and know that these are the things that will have a huge impact for us, and some of the important things that we've undertaken as an institution. I think that's something that's been a strength of ours. I think we have and part of that comes from our leadership and our great leadership of President Dr. Nancy Blotner, who's been here, I think, about 5 or 6 years, and she's really transformed the institution, had a vision for us, been able to communicate that, led by example, all the things that we talk about as leadership points. I think she is one of the ultimate leaders, a servant leader, somebody who really brings a lot to the table and has inspired the campus. So she's somebody that we see as, or I see as a strength for the institution, and I know Dr. Keen's mentioned that before as well. We also have some organizational strengths as far as innovation goes. We were the first school in New Jersey to have a master's program and are still the only doctoral program in the state for applied behavior analysis. We are the first in the country to receive CACREP, which is a counseling accreditation for our art therapy program. No other art therapy program in the country has CACREP accreditation, so we are pretty proud of that, and that's the top level counseling accreditation there is. And we believe we're the first to offer 360-degree videos of the campus. So you go onto YouTube, or if you have a virtual reality Google Cardboard headset or anything like that, you can look and kind of look around, look up, look down, and as you move your head, you're able to see these videos and see as if you were actually in the cafeteria or in a dorm room or on one of our facilities. It's pretty neat. So you get a chance, go to our YouTube page or go to our website and check those out. We're pretty proud of them. So for my personal development plan, some areas of attention that I see are really scheduling, conflict resolution, planning messages, intuitive decision making, and empathy. So those are the areas I know I need to address and through my personal development plan, which I am going to take forward from this. So I have a little bit of a paradox. I talked about time management before. You say, wait, he said that was a strength of his. How is scheduling a weakness? This is how. Take a look at that calendar. This was a week back in February, but it's not too dissimilar than many other weeks. It was just really the worst example I think I've had in the last few months of what my calendar can look like and my schedule can look like. Sunday night was great. Mets Cubs, saw that in the NLCS, but the rest of the week, so much of the week was blocked off. You can see that one little block on Friday where I really had an opportunity to get anything accomplished, and that was at the end of the week. Any of those issues that pop up midweek, I don't know how I handled it. We had class at the end of the week. I also had open house, and then finally I got the heck out of town. And how do I handle that schedule? When you look at what Covey puts forward as, what's urgent versus non-urgent, important versus non-important, we spend not enough time in Q2, and I think I need to make sure I schedule that in, is block off time so that I don't get distracted and be able to spend on what's important but might not be the most urgent thing, so it doesn't get put in my front of my face right away. Same thing too about kind of moving away and realizing what sits in quadrant three and quadrant four in the work in my work life. How do I minimize interruptions and distractions? Maybe it does require closing my door sometimes and focusing on long term things, those long term success, relationship building, building career, building personal skills, things like that, which will pay off in the long run and minimize those Q3 and Q4 things. Although I think none of us have any Q4 time until we finish this program, but there's opportunities out there to spend more time in Q2 so that lessens those urgent things and focus on really just what's important. I think those are the things I like to do. So my action plan for scheduling would be um, right implementing it right away. Really just using planning resources. This would be my responsibility. It's saying no to the unnecessary. It's okay to say no sometimes to some things. I know we're people pleasers and want to always say yes, but there's a Buffett quote I think in one of the earlier slides about saying no is important as well. And build in time for the unexpected. You're going to have things that you can't foresee that pop up and will be important and urgent, and allowing yourself time so you don't get pulled in too many directions. That's something I need to improve on. Conflict resolution, that's something that I'm not the biggest fan of, dealing with conflicts. I think this is a great illustration of how if you avoid conflict, it comes back, just stays there, continues to be angered, and you can't dominate either. So you have to find the right balance to be able to resolve conflict. And for me, that action plan would look like um, and then putting this would be one that I would share responsibility with the university, trying to work with HR. We have supervisor forums to make this as part of a supervisor forum, possibly bringing in a speaker or a demonstration of how to best deal with it, working with others on campus to hear about how they do it. I think the supervisors forum would be a great forum, for lack of a better word, to implement some ways to deal with conflict, because we all deal with it. And I think unless you're taught how to deal with it. And I know sometimes my first reaction would be to try to avoid it, but having, like I said before, three different areas, there's conflicts that are going to happen, and to handle them head on, and be more proactive with them, and having those strategies there would be really helpful. So planning messages, I talked before about the encoding and decoding, but I do need to know my audience a little bit better, taking that step back, and getting to know who my message is going out to, and getting to know what they're taking in. Making sure when I'm crafting messages, and this for me was a little bit more for my external messaging. I think when you're dealing with an internal environment, you may have a little more time to, when crafting, say, be able to write a really long email. But if I'm creating email that's more of a marketing email to prospective students, I can't just have, you know, 20 paragraphs of text and just putting every little piece that they might ever need to know. I need to make it focused. I need to make it shorter. I need to put myself in their situation and find that congruence of the audience, the message, and myself and the institution, or and find that sweet spot in the middle there that hits all three of those. So that's the type of thing that I'm talking about when I'm saying message planning, and building out a communication plan, and thinking about, okay, when's the best time to talk about this? When's the best time to talk about that? Who needs to know it? Because if you oversaturate somebody, they're going to ignore the important messages. We joke about all campus, that's the all campus emails. Nobody ever reads them, but sometimes there's really important information in there that we need. So how can I do that? I'm the team members here, and I think one of the ways that we could do that would be to go to the American Marketing Association Higher Education Symposium in the fall, and then from the information we gain from there and from using social media and other things that are at our research, really do a full audit of our outgoing messages. Like I talked about before, we're implementing a new recruitment platform. I can audit our communication plans. I could work with our marketing here, and our web team to audit the web messages. We recently redeveloped the website, you may have noticed, but the content needs, I think, an overhaul, and making sure that our message is really hitting home in the best way it can. So those are some, it would be a university, and would be able to help me with that, and realize my message planning. And it would reap benefits too for internal constituencies when I'm communicating with anybody about figuring out how to get that importance of the message and what the key takeaway in the content is. And I think that's something that, as long as we follow that, keep it simple, kind of, and we're able to handle that. Utilize focus groups, internal focus groups would be great, and I'll touch on focus groups later too. Asking them what makes sense, and I think those are all things that'll help me with my message planning. Assertiveness is something I need to work on as well. It's not that I'm cowering under the table in offices, or that assertiveness is not necessarily that brash, loud, dominant person that we think it is. Assertiveness, in this illustration, I really think was really strong. Is kind of that is can see in the middle of passive and aggressive, you have the assertiveness. It's an area of in the area of choice, but also when the triangle was a great way to demonstrate this because it's also assertiveness is as far as you can get from passive and aggressive. It's that area that you're able to, you know, provide that guiding light, have that confidence to um, share and shed light on whatever the issue. It's kind of if a passive person may see an assertive person as aggressive, and an aggressive person may see a assertive person as passive. But I think it's something that I know I need to do. And you'll see here too, because the arrows go all in all different directions, that we change. We're not always, we can be passive, we can be aggressive, we can be assertive. But I think I need to, and especially as I want to progress in my career and be a leader, you need to be assertive. And I think as I build that awareness, I can take the responsibility immediately to start being more assertive and find those times, thinking about who I'm dealing with, have that confidence and appealing to the emotions and of others and self-interest. I think I need to work on my intuitive decision making as well. Um, I think with my role currently, there's too much spent on the numbers. I need to find the balance between the numbers and my intuition. I have to use that emotional and political capital to communicate that well to other people. Using the empathy and communication skills that I have and will continue to develop to get to that 90% plus to be a highly intuitive decision maker, to have that confidence again, letting my mind wander a little bit more and balancing between the numbers of my job with the other side. Empathy is the final area that I need to work on. It's not just knowing how exactly feel, and there's so much that emotion can play, and we all work off of emotion, whether it's minimally or somewhat. And especially now, I think when you look at the generational differences, empathy is a big piece of what's out there. And I know I need to be a little bit more empathetic. Maybe it's dealing with focus groups to see what drives people's decision making, working with my staff, empowering staff members to remind me to be more empathetic. I think I have a couple now that feel they can speak the truth to power, but making sure everybody feels it because I know that's something that's deficient. And by having a well-rounded team, that's something that I'm able to really address. Um, Getting that focus group and feedback is something that's key, and I think I can address. And as I was going through, kind of the quick little summaries, I need to work on my right brain skills. Very left brain dominant. That came through the assessments, and as I was taking a look at all the research, really my right brain is what needs to step forward and realize that I need to balance that, and also have team members that are right brain dominant to make up for where my deficiencies might be. But to advance as a leader, working on those skills are really what kind of came across for me. Now, when we look at Caldwell as an institution, I think we need to work on two areas: time management and innovation. We have too many meetings, too many committees, too many things going on. I think, did you see my schedule before? It was too packed. We have too many meetings. If we do a little math real quick, if you have we have too many 4-hour meetings with 30 people in them, and if you assume that average salary, it works out to the cost of more than one of these classes for each of us. So we could pay, have one of our classes individually paid for if we had one less of those meetings and took that wasted money away. Not going to happen, but we can try. And I think what we want to have is, my idea is hashtag NMM. It's not Demi Lovato's No Makeup Mondays. So when I actually searched that hashtag, that's what came up. And I guess she posts on Instagram once a week that no make pictures with no makeup, but no meeting Mondays is what I'm going for. And we've already had conversations with other staff members and faculty members to try to put an idea like this forward to see if we can free up time for those different quadrants we talked about before, and then have standard ground rules for all of our meetings, like limiting lengths, stated purposes, less committees, more task force. Task force have a stated goal rather than committees which just might meet for the purpose of meeting, and having agendas so everybody knows going in what they need to do. Um, and innovation is another paradox. If I said innovation was a strength, but it's also a weakness, not only for Caldwell, but I think it's indicative of the industry as a whole of higher education. We move too slowly to respond to the needs of people. And I think that's something that we need to work on as an institution to flourish, but also as an industry as a whole. There's so much going on right now in higher ed that we need to address and need to kind of think about. But when you look at the um, innovative companies out there, how they respond to market needs, higher ed doesn't always do that, and I think Caldwell needs to do that as well. So the action plan for that would be um, starting in the spring, moving to the fall to start to implement, maybe bringing in speakers from outside higher ed, rewarding innovation on campus, um, hold forums on innovation, creating new programs, which I know we're already doing, and whether it's in the healthcare field or in sport management or new things that are out there, we're starting to do that, but continue to do that. Look at delivery methods, competency-based education. Those are all things that are out there to be innovative within higher ed, and I think we can do it and really address that innovation need here on campus to be a program like this was innovative. This is an accelerated program. Met the needs of, and we were able to have a great class and a great cohort. This is a great cohort two, and we're working on cohort three. I think we can do that, and the opportunity is there, but we have to take advantage of it as an institution. So that's my presentation. Thank you for listening to me virtually, I guess. Sorry again, I couldn't be there with everybody, but hopefully, you know, we can connect. If you have any questions, you guys know how to get in contact with me, and I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Take care.